Manager I coach was spending way too much time reviewing and approving his team's work. He was frustrated that he continually had to repeat quality and standards about what good looked like. But what if his team could get feedback before the work ever hits his inbox? That's the question today's video is the answer. Let's add today. Let's build something to fix this. Before we jump into building some GPTs, I want to have some fun with this. Let's give our manager a fictional name. Let's just be playful. We're going to call him Terry. Terry, the taste tutor, because he is trying to communicate his taste, his excellence, his standards, what good looks like. But the problem is he is the standard, which is why he becomes the bottleneck for approving and reviewing work. He is the standard is in his head. And Terry wants to be a great manager, but being a great manager requires communicating and articulating what good looks like on a regular basis. So the question is, how do we train AI on what good looks like to you, or to Terry for that matter? Let's hop in. Let's see an example. There's 3 things we must understand before we build our GPT. The first comes from a concept in the 1-minute manager called 1-minute goals. And in the book, the author speaks about having a goal that you can look at and read in 1 to 2 minutes that would change your behavior. He said, look at your goals, look at what you're doing, see if they match, right? That's what the art of defining what good looks like means. But when it comes to certain tasks, we can get really good at defining what that excellence should look like and what behaviors, follow-ups, etc. are required. It's about stripping management down to its absolute core. This is the quality of a great GPT as well. We want to take this mindset into it. And you have a ton of great institutional knowledge that's going to be applicable. And we're going to try to help Terry out too. So deconstructing the act of review. What does review or approving work really look like, right? It's really a simple formula. Does X match Y? Where X is the work and Y is the standard. So X could be a series of presentations, emails, communication, you name it, all of the things that come across Terry's taste, all the things that come across Terry's desk. And Y is the standard. And Y is the beautiful, magnificent a part of your brain and your institutional knowledge and your professional and lived experience that make you a great leader, that make Terry a great leader, right? And we can use AI to document that, to be trained on that, so that your team gets maybe a first round of feedback before it ever hits your desk or hits Terry's desk for that matter. So we're trying to scale your judgment. We just need to digitize the Y side of this equation, and we'll get this. We're going to give GPT good output and bad output. What I found in my experience is that I started with giving it GPT's good input, and it was great, but the contrast between good and bad is really where it can shine, right? And think about it. In our minds, this is the analysis that we're going through. We're going through thousands, maybe millions of different iterations of seeing different work and doing this compare and contrast in our minds, right? So for these areas where we want to get to step 3, this is how we do it, right? Think about how, if this were a goal, if this GPT just had one little job and we could look at that goal and look at what was being done and see if it matches. That's all we're trying to do. That is defining your taste, your judgment, and it takes some practice, but we can speak to AI, right? And that's, I think, a hidden bonus that I wanted to share, which is most people miss this. You can speak 3 to 4 times faster than you type. So I love that we can work at the speed of thought right now, right? And you can literally save 3 to 4 hours a week just by speaking with AI. So we're going to demo that. Let's jump into ChatGPT. So before we jump into GPT, this is our good, bad output that we spoke about. This is where we're going to give Terry our taste tutor to be able to build his feedback GPT. So as you can see here, we have examples. So this is actually from a workshop that I've personally done. And it shows like what good slides would look like versus meh slides, right? So nobody wants to look at slides that are just text. So I think those are clear bad examples. And for you, do, really do the work to try to gather some bad examples. And again, this is an iterative process. You can do this. You could also start from scratch. But what I found is that if you can give the AI something to chew on, something to work from, some base, even if it's as simple as this, it's very, very good. So what we're going to do right now is we're just going to download this. Yeah, so simple, quick, easy. Then we're going to jump into ChatGPT. Throw this in here. And then I'm going to use a tool called Whisper and say, hey, GPT, I want you to help me define a feedback GPT. And in order to do that, what we're going to do is look at this document here. And I want you to take this document and extract out what my criteria are, my successful criteria for good and bad. So I've given you good examples and bad examples in a table on the first page. And I want you to look through that and then use first principles thinking to talk through and document what is the criteria that's being used to get to the good example, because that's what I'm going to use as an engine for my GPT to help us save time and give the team some feedback before it gets to us. Now, it does not have to be that elaborate, but you get the idea. And then I'm going to document that. We're going to let GPT go to work. So it's specificity, love, structure, ownership, decision, relevance. I like a lot of these. What makes the good examples good? Use this for revealing it. Okay, cool. And it even gave me a rubric. This is what's great because a rubric is the simplest way to define a standard. So now what I'm going to do is I want to get even more specific. I wanted more specific because I want to simplify. Again, back to our goals example. If I came into your job and looked at a list of your goals, I probably wouldn't be able to execute. So we think about that at the task level. How do I give this enough specificity where someone could change their behavior, update the slide with what I would do, right? Buy myself back some of that strategic time, the strategic leverage. So I'm going to say be 1,000 times more specific with your defining of my criteria. And I want you to simplify it so that even a fifth grader could understand it. Let's get a draft of that and then we'll keep going. Super simple version. Turn unclear writing into clear thinking. Cool. Say what actually bad. We made good progress. Good. Relaunched onboarding beats. I can't picture what happened. That's bad. Here's bad. This good. I like how simple it is. Show proof. It went really well. Activation. So again, it just oversimplified. And might want to, as a final step, yes, it suggested exactly what I was thinking. I might, as a final step, just like give me the GPT and now we can go in and actually test this. This is on overall feedback, but a great thing I would suggest as well is making these individual ones, and you'll have to test, right? The cream of the crop will rise, the ones that, and you don't have to start with your entire team. Start with maybe one person. So one that I worked on this year was the leadership slide one specifically, but it's even more powerful when you add these visuals right here. Cool. So we got our instructions. I'm going to see you in the next part. Now we're going to actually go into GPTs. And the way that you get there is if you have to be on the pro version, but you go to explore GPTs. I'm going to go to create, paste in instructions. I'm going to take out this last little part. Now, again, this is not perfect. I would spend way more time tailoring this, but it got the gist of what I wanted to accomplish. I'm going to call this the taste tutor. This practice, what I like to do, especially if you have specific standards, is I like to avoid web search and upload maybe relevant files as well. Again, this is how you can really tailor this. I want to say create. Cool. Now, if we go back to our example, I want feedback. Unlock my update. We simplified it too much. So it's like harsh. Proof, none. Blocker, unknown. Next step, not defined. Ask, none. What happened? No clear action. This update is incomplete. It does not say what actually happened, so a manager cannot understand progress or make decisions. Here's a fixed version using the same intent, but making it usable. What happened? Completed project name, then started next task. Crew, finish X deliverables. It's not the worst. Again, we kind of got it to the 5th grade level. So it really is maybe too blunt, right? So the taste tutor is ranked. They're like, the taste tutor is judging me. So here's an example of what can happen and how we run different tests. But ultimately, this is something that could save your team a lot of time. Again, this is very harsh, but it's not wrong, right? It's not wrong. We would need to be more specific. And we just took an example from our manager feedback here. So what we learned was that GPTs can be extremely generic and useless on the first time around, but spending a little bit of time tweaking this is how we got some results for Terry, the taste tutor. And I'm going to hop back in, share my screen, and show you next what you should continue to think about moving forward to continue saving yourself time and implementing something like this. So here's what we learned. The first passes are always generic and useless. That is where it starts in terms of downloading your institutional knowledge and being able to train this. The problem is the AI can be very verbose. It can talk too much. It can talk too little. So we need to adjust, right? And cranking the specificity up is a great start. Asking it to be simple enough as a 5th grader can be a little bit too harsh on the feedback, but you get the point, right? We want to distill down our thinking and really train the AI on how we look at a piece of work, review, and improve it, right? Clarity always beats being verbose, right? So instead of telling me what good looks like, be 1,000 times more specific, simplify it, use first principles thinking. These are ways to get to the core of how you're trying to articulate. And without these tweaks and refinements, you'll get a lot of buzzwords, you'll get a lot of generic advice. So this is how Terry, the taste tutor, can get 80% cleaner on the first pass so that his team can get the feedback they need before it ever even hits his desk or his inbox, right? So AI isn't replacing you. It's really extending your judgment, really helping you think about how can I use that time, buy it back, and use it as leverage to focus on more strategic things or coaching people, right? But it's really about taking the time to do the documentation. And as you saw here, it can take 5 to 10 minutes of talking to AI to really be able to get some great documentation and tools that your team can use and leverage. And that's not a bad employee experience, right? And my manager took the time to say, hey, we're going to test something. We want to try something. I want to give you great feedback and I want to help you grow, right? So let's run a test. Let's have fun with it. Let's learn, right? So it's all about how we position, approach, and use our attitude. So again, isolate, pick your most repeated, most repetitive work. For Terry, it was looking at communications, reports, updates, right? Extract. Maybe only start with 3 examples. Right? Over time, I would say continue to document that. The documentation is great because, again, it's not living in your head. And then spend 5 to 10 minutes just calibrating with it, speaking to it and saying, well, not quite right there. Be more specific, be more direct, be more thoughtful, right? Really train it on what your standard looks like. So I do have a free school community you can join, and we'll help you build your first custom GPT together if you feel a little overwhelmed by this process. Let's continue to AI. Let's continue to level up together. We'll see you next time. Peace.